Let us move ahead with the next topic of our panel discussion that will broaden our horizon for building global corridor for startup ecosystem. By connecting different startup hubs, a more collaborative and supportive ecosystem can be created that enables startups to access resources, expertise, and funding from around the world. In addition, encouraging cross border investments where investors from different countries can invest in startups outside their home country can open up more interconnected and inclusive startup ecosystem. Let us understand more from the experts on impact of building a global corridor for startup ecosystem. And hence I would like to call our set of esteemed panelists, speakers from India and abroad, Mr. Sheetal Soni, Managing Partner of MI Capital. Sir, please welcome on the stage, and I want all of you to please give him a huge round of applause. Mr. Vivek Kastwar from United Arab Emirates, and Mr. Mohammad Khanak, Director of Julius Baer, and myself as the moderator for this particular section. Welcome all of you, sir. First of all, before beginning the panel, I would just like to all of you to introduce yourself as in what segment and what specialization do you come from? What space do you exactly come from? Yes, starting with you.
Thank you very much, Karishma. My name is Mohamed Kanak. I am Swiss and Canadian, originally from Lebanon, and it's my first time to India. Very excited to be here in Surat. I have a private banking background with the Swiss banks, Pictet and Julius Baer, and more recently with Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank. And I'm also expanding my horizons to startup investment as well.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Sheetal Soni. This is my second visit to this Ivy Growth. First of all, congratulate Ivy Growth for this amazing event yet again. I think the scale of the event has gone significantly higher compared to last year, and proud to be here second time. I'm based in UAE for last 20 years. I run a small firm, corporate finance boutique firm called MI Capital Services. And prior to that, for 15 years, I have worked in real estate and infrastructure industries in UAE and as a partner for corporate finance with a tier 2 audit accounting firm. So I am learning as far as startups is concerned and look forward for my learning journey.
Lovely.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vivek Kastwar. I've been a traditional banker, basically from the corporate banking and investment banking background. I'm in the Middle East for past 20 years between Bahrain and UAE. Currently, I manage a bank in UAE. I'm the CEO for Ahli United Bank. My interest in this startup is fairly new for last couple of years. In my personal capacity, I engage with startups in terms of the investment, also do a little bit of mentoring for them. Well, this event is an eye-opener. I see the robustness of the ecosystem here, which I was actually reading, but I'm witnessing it in person. It is quite amazing, and I really thank Ivy Growth to give this opportunity to see this live. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, sir. So moving ahead, the very first question when we talk about startup in the global corridor and opening up the horizon of investing in startups beyond our home countries. So the startup ecosystem is growing very well in India as well as in Middle East. Do you see this as a perfect match as a disruption for the global corridor?
See, I'll tell you, in 2015, I met an interesting gentleman called Mr. Partha Sarthi. He was the founder of Mindtree, and he successfully sold his company to I think, L&T. And he used to live in Silicon Valley. So he visited UAE, and I was a corporate finance advisor, so we had a meeting, and he mentioned that to me, that a good deal does not flow even from Silicon Valley to Los Angeles, right? So why would somebody come to Dubai and and look for it? And that time the startup ecosystem in UAE was kind of non-existent, and in India it was taking off. So things have moved significantly since last 8 years, 10 years, since 2015 when I met him first. In 2014-15, Middle East region had almost like oil prices were $200, and nobody was really concerned about startups, tech companies and all that. And by the time 2020 came, we hit almost $0 of oil prices in Middle East region. And during this time, we have seen a complete change in the shift in the mindset when it comes to the looking the way, the capital that used to chase the startups prior to that, and what it is chasing today, it is unprecedented. The question, going back to your question, how can, Middle East and India, how do you see this region going? I see a great synergy when it comes to Middle East and India region is concerned. If students of economics would know that factors of production is capital, labor, productivity and all. And India is a big market when it comes to market, when it comes to productivity, and when it comes to technology, technological changes are concerned. And Middle East is looking for diversification when it comes to diversifying from the economy from hydrocarbon to non-hydrocarbon. So I clearly see a great synergy while the two regions are collaborating and will further collaborate. There is a challenges that are there in some other regions, and that gives a unique opportunity to Middle East and India region.
Great, lovely. And definitely we do see a huge opportunity in this particular doorway. Talking about challenges, as you ended, there are certain challenges. But what are these challenges you see in the startups locally as well as globally? What do you feel about it?
Okay, so as you know, the startup ecosystem itself has so many challenges. So I would say there are 5 critical challenges which you can categorize them locally as well as globally. First and foremost, of course, being the access to funding. Although there have been huge funding which has happened in Indian startup ecosystem, about $18.5 billion last year, which is quite robust, and it is the second largest unicorn producer also in the world, which is quite great. But still, startups suffer for the funding, and this remains the key challenge. That's the first challenge. The second challenge could be the regulatory environment, because you see, regulatory environment is very important when it comes to startup. In emerging markets, the legislative framework for the startups and the venture capital are in the state of flux, if you ask me. It's not predefined. So startups fail, they do not know what exactly has to be done, what are the implications in case any regulatory thing happens to them. The third, which is also quite key, I would say, is the talent acquisition and retention. Because startups, of course, unlike the established companies, of course, cannot compensate to the same extent. So recruiting and retention of these talents is another challenge for them. And as you know, the startup, which they grow very rapidly. So understanding the new markets, because they have to continuously enter to the new market, is another challenge for them. And it can be different cultures if they go globally. To understand the culture, the consumer behavior, that is another key challenge. And fifth, and the last challenge would be establishing the robust supply chain, which when you go to the new geography, globally speaking, you feel you have to really invest a lot of time, energy, and money to establish the supply chain, which is actually very key for the startups to grow.
Lovely, perfect, yeah, sure, sir.
No, I would like to just add here. See, as I said, I am learning as far as startups is concerned, but I have a decent amount of experience when it comes to corporate finance, debt advisory, and M&A practice, and I think that stands true with startups as well. We always used to get two types of clients. The first set of clients who chase us, right, for capital raising, for helping them. And the second, from those clients, we try to run away because they are probably a bad credit, we don't believe in them. The second set of clients that we normally are is the clients which we have to chase. And I think good startups is something that investors have to chase. And I would also want to say one thing is like this Hindi film song Sheila Ki Jawani, the funding part that you just mentioned. The startups who only chase funding and talk only about funding, it works like Sheila Ki Jawani jo kabhi haath na aani. You have to chase the excellence, and the rest all will follow. People will find you. Of course, you need to be active, you need to network, you need to network smartly. And one last point, I think since you are talking about the challenges, I pulled out few, I met a client recently, and it is a 150 years old group. And they work on 5 principles and strike my, imagination. The first principle is your word is your bond. And I think startups needs to follow these principles in order to mitigate any challenge, and it remains the same. So your word is your bond, so you have to stick to your commitments, what you do. The second thing is partnership for growth. If you are sitting together with set of people, whether you are employees, your partners, your customers, your stakeholders, whosoever, you need to create a win-win situation for everyone, all of it. Then you have to work to give, right? You have to contribute to people, you have to contribute to their life, to add value to their system. Then fourth is, you're talking about Indian startup, you have to act local, think global. You should be thinking globally, but again, you need to stay core to your local cultures, your local thought process. And the fifth, which is most important, if you feel confident, even 80% confident, you need to advance fearlessly. So, nidar hoke, if you have to take courage and go forward. I think these are the five principles that strike my chord, which is for a 150-year-old group, which stands true for startups as well.
Lovely, lovely. I think a huge round of applause for this particular thing that he mentioned here. Very profound way of explaining it, as well as it was very inspiring as well. Talking about the challenges that we have already done in a very in-depth manner, now moving ahead and talking about opportunities that we have in this particular space. So sir, for you, I have this particular question. How can countries collaborate and provide a platform for startups to grow globally?
First of all, this is an amazing event, and I think that it would be important to try to make these events very international. I mean, the idea generation and the drive that I can see here is simply amazing, and I think that you should not be afraid to try to build your brand equity internationally, whether it is physically. If possible, it's always better to meet in person, but even virtual meetings, try to make them with international partners, because we are today in a world that's very, very connected. I mean, with your mobiles, you don't even know sometimes in which country you are, right? So I think, yeah, we have to build this global corridor, and we have all the tools in our hands to do so.
See, in 2020 in Dubai we had an expo, and in expo, Indian consulate had started a session called Elevate Session, and it was an initiative from Indian consulate. Your question relates to how can countries collaborate, and there is a perfect example that we have seen. Vivek has been following as well on that the ambassador started these sessions, which started inviting around 20-30 startups every month and pitching in the country. And I think that served as a perfect catalyst, when it comes to showcasing India growth story in Middle East region. And we see that Elevate session continuing post the Expo 2020 finished in Dubai as well. Now it has become quite a hit session out there. So I think that was a great example how countries can collaborate, and the Indian diaspora across the globe is very thriving. At least I see wherever I grow, I have visited in my 20 years of career. I think we have a perfect diaspora across the globe to be able to collaborate, and the government is also working towards it.
That was lovely. Perfect. So talking about what will run globally or what is actually preferred. So when we talk about the nature and the category of startups that that are going to be trending or that are potentially more successful. So what do you like the most or value the most, technology based startups or product based startups in the global space? Yeah.
So basically, technology-based startups or the product base. Let's talk about the technology-based startup first. They are the startups which use cloud platforms and technology-based platforms to basically grow. So they grow quite rapidly. They have a potential to grow quite rapidly, that they can reach to the wider market globally in a very short span of time. That raises a competition for them, of course. So that's the reason the tech-based startups are normally overvalued, and that brings a word of caution for them. Whereas the product-based startups, they also use these days the technology to scale up their market, to grow their market. Unlike technology-based startups, product-based startups has entry to barriers. There are high entry to barriers, basically. It cannot be replicated that easily. And the initial investment is also very high. But once it is established, it is difficult to replicate also. So both of them have their pros and cons, technology as well as the product base. But at the end of the day, both have same target, which is creating value, scale up, and profitability.
Right. So as you mentioned that technology-based startups are usually overvalued or probably are overvalued. So are they really overvalued, or they make it easy for any startup to get into a global space or get beyond the space that they are restricted in?
See, startup founders here will start hating me if I talk about valuation, because I have never been able to digest startup valuation. We have learned traditional way of valuations, and our mind is still in hangover with the traditional way of valuations, cash flows, which doesn't exist in startups. A lot of startups that we see, profitability, which doesn't exist in a lot of startups that we see. So I am probably the wrong person to answer this, but for sure, technology-based startups to me a lot of them seems overvalued, and I have been wrong at some times as well. I have been right at many a times, right, when it comes to valuation. And I think I have been right at most of the times, I would say. But yes, some of the startups have been able to prove it wrong as well. They have been able to grow beyond a point, and then sustain as well. So, but largely, if you see that, the basket, I think I think 2021 market had fueled, lot of expectations in terms of it was a free money that was flowing in the market, and I think it needed a correction, which we got in 2022, 2023, and I hope the valuation expectations will start making sense, and they are already starting to make sense a bit.
So I would like to add here, see, the very nature of the tech startups is, they have a potential to scale, the potential of scalability. So that makes them attract a lot of investment. And when you get a lot of investment, you tend to value it higher. So that's the reason they are termed as overvalued. But having said that, we have to go case by case basis and the scalability of the technology and the patents which they are doing. So on a case by case basis, we have to go and evaluate those startups basically.
Right, rightly said so. So talking about valuation, as we say, or the entire, the entire magnanimous energy is created when we talk about startup these days. So startup itself is a very buzzing word. Startup itself is a very trending word, as we say. So my question is it really the future or it is just the bubble?
Do you want me to take it?
Yeah, take it and then I'll.
No, I think both. There is a dialogue in one of the Hindi movie, right? Picture तीन चीजों से चलती है, entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. I think मुझे लगता है startups तीन चीजों से चलता है, energy, energy, energy. They fail, and they rise again with the same amount of positivity next day morning, and then they continue. So I feel the way the word is advancing. Startups is the engine, the engine for that. The comfort that we are seeing, the ease that we are seeing, it is all because of startup. I've spent 20 years of my life in traditional industries, real estate, infrastructure, oil and gas, these kind of industries. And we keep on doing the same gisa pita thing all the time, and we keep on repeating the same mistake all the time again, right? At least startups do the mistake while doing it for the first time, right? That at least a good thing to have. As far as what was your question? Sorry.
Is startup really
Bubble?
the future?
Yeah. So
or a bubble?
it's both bubble. It's certainly a bubble, right? I mean, 90% of the startup, or maybe more, or around that, fails because they are not able to carry through what they thought through, and it's not backed by enough right energy, right product, right talent, right funding, whatever, right? However, without startups, you cannot proceed. The world is advancing purely because of that.
No, so I mean, this is a very interesting topic which actually attracts a lot of lively debate. So I would say that startup is definitely a future.
All right.
You see, currently, if you see startups, they contribute about 3% of the global GDP. That figure is gonna go up to 4% by 2030. That means definitely it's a future. And if you broadly see the startups, the tech startups, they invest in technologies like fintech, health tech. They're all future societal changes ecosystems basically. So definitely this is a future. Startups are future, but definitely when there are a lot of investments coming to it, and there is a pressure on a startup to grow rapidly at the cost of not creating that much of robustness and the value, then it tends to a bubble. But as I said, we have to really evaluate on a case-by-case basis. But to me, this is definitely a future.
Lovely. Sir, would you like to add to this?
No, I agree that for me, startup is definitely the future because, you know, startups is often linked to great ideas, and stimulating also everyone intellectually is the way forward. And I think that also perseverance is very important in the startup world.
Lovely. So that makes me go towards the last question for this particular panel, as we are talking about opening up opportunities globally, opening up opportunities for investors as well as the startup founders to find the right space for them globally. So what is the role of VCs and angels in creating this global startup corridor? Yes, sir.
So whether VCs or family offices or angels, they are all support the startup ecosystem. VCs, I would say, are the ones which are the driving force behind the growth of the startup ecosystems. They not only provide investments, but they also provide the overall guidance. So venture capital would, I would say, contribute to 75% of the total investment going into the startup ecosystem. They are very essential for the startup ecosystem to grow. Family offices, they have a little bit of different perspective. They go long term in the investment, which is also very important for the startups. Longer you invest in them, less pressure on them to overgrow or to compromise on the value creation. So family offices play a very, very important role as well. And let's not discount the angels. Angels are the ones who support the startups at a very early stage. When the venture capitals are not looking at them, even the family offices are not looking at them. So they support the startups at an early stage, equally important. So they have all distinct characteristics and distinct profile. And I would say any co-founder who is looking at a funding has to evaluate at what stage he is in and what kind of funding will be best suited to him and accordingly approach them.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all our esteemed panelists for sharing their, actually valuable insights when it comes from a global space itself. So we do get some hands-on, experience attached with this particular perspective that you guys are carrying. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your time and efforts. Thank you. Thank you. And please, a round of applause
Thank you for
for
the
all of them.
opportunity.